Emma's steps echoed softly against the rain-slicked streets of Seattle, each splash of her boots in puddles matching the restless rhythm in her heart. The evening air was crisp, carrying the scent of wet asphalt and coffee from nearby cafes, yet she barely noticed. Her mind swirled with exhaustion from the long day at work, deadlines, and conversations that had left her feeling both drained and strangely hollow. She had wrapped herself in her coat tightly, hoping to shield herself from more than just the cold, yet something invisible seemed to follow her, a weight she could not name. That's when she saw it, a small cafe tucked between two taller buildings, its warm light spilling onto the wet sidewalk like an invitation she couldn't resist. Something urged her to pause, to look through the window, and in that golden glow, she saw him, a man sitting alone at a corner table, staring at the rain, his expression quiet, thoughtful, and hauntingly familiar in a way she couldn't understand. He was not handsome in a way that demanded attention, but there was a softness in his features, a vulnerability that drew her gaze and made her heartbeat skip. Emma hesitated for a moment, battling the urge to turn away and the curiosity that pulled her forward, until the door's handle seemed to beckon her. When she stepped inside, the warmth of the cafe wrapped around her, carrying the comforting scent of coffee, baked bread, and something intangible she couldn't name, perhaps hope. She hesitated near the entrance, momentarily self-conscious, until the man's eyes lifted to meet hers. In that instant, the world seemed to shrink, the rain outside fading into silence, and his gaze held her in a way that felt both comforting and disarming. He offered a faint smile, small but genuine, and without realizing why, Emma found herself asking if she could join him. He nodded, his voice soft, calm, inviting, not at all. She slid into the chair across from him, and a strange energy settled between them, fragile yet undeniable. They started talking, and the hours passed almost invisibly as words tumbled out, carrying fragments of their lives, regrets, small joys, and unspoken dreams. Emma discovered that his name was Alex, and with every sentence, every pause, every laugh, she felt the invisible walls around her heart soften. She shared pieces of herself she rarely allowed others to see, and Alex listened, his eyes steady, his attention full, as if her words were the only thing that mattered in the world. They talked about their favorite books, places they longed to visit, moments of quiet loneliness, and fleeting happinesses that had left a mark on their hearts. Each story revealed a little more, connecting them across the emptiness that both had felt in recent months. Outside, the rain continued, a steady rhythm against the windows, but inside, the cafe felt like a separate world where time did not exist. Emma laughed at a joke Alex made about losing his umbrella again, and he laughed at her story of spilling coffee on herself during a chaotic morning, but beneath the humor, there was a current of emotion neither could ignore. A delicate thread of attraction began to form, not loud or overpowering, but subtle, like the first light of dawn brushing against the horizon. It was a mix of curiosity, recognition, and the rare sense that someone else might understand the hidden corners of her heart. She noticed the gentleness in the way he listened, the sincerity in his smile, and the softness in his voice that made her chest tighten in a way she had forgotten she could feel. Alex, in turn, seemed captivated by Emma's warmth, her honesty, and the way she spoke with both humor and thoughtfulness, revealing a depth that intrigued him more than he expected. Time flowed around them as if it were liquid, hours melting unnoticed, with each conversation weaving a quiet intimacy that felt unplanned, yet inevitable. Outside, the rain eased, leaving the city damp and glimmering, but inside, neither of them noticed the passing night. Their connection was fragile yet magnetic, a gentle tension that made each glance linger longer, each pause heavier with unspoken words. Emma realized that the day's exhaustion had vanished, replaced by a thrilling sense of anticipation and vulnerability, as though this meeting had unlocked a part of her she had kept hidden. Alex seemed to feel it too, the way he leaned slightly forward, the way his gaze softened when she laughed, and the way he shared stories that hinted at past heartbreaks without needing to go into detail. Their conversation wandered from light topics to deeper reflections, from dreams of future adventures to fears they had never voiced aloud. Emma felt an unexpected trust forming, the kind that develops when two people feel they are seen for who they truly are, without judgment or expectation. She realized that she hadn't eaten dinner, hadn't checked her phone, hadn't thought about the outside world, because something about this moment demanded her full attention. The cafe around them was lively yet muted in her perception, the clink of cups, soft conversations, and the occasional laughter of other patrons became a backdrop to the quiet intensity building between them. She noticed the way Alex's hand rested near his cup, fingers lightly tapping, a subtle sign of his own nervous energy, and it made her smile inwardly. There was something about this encounter that felt fated, though she did not believe in destiny, yet the connection was undeniable. She could feel her heartbeat quicken in tandem with the soft rhythm of rain against the windows, and a strange mix of hope and longing rose in her chest. Alex shared a memory of a favorite childhood place, and Emma listened, imagining the scene, picturing him there with wide-eyed innocence, and she realized she was beginning to care about the stranger she had just met. Time seemed suspended, yet Emma was acutely aware that the night outside was growing late, shadows stretching along the wet streets. She felt a pang of reluctance at the thought of leaving this newfound comfort, of stepping back into the ordinary world where moments like this were rare. As they finished their coffee, a subtle change occurred, a shift in awareness that the night might not last, that what had begun in warmth and laughter would soon face the reality of the world outside the cafe. And just as Emma was about to speak, to prolong the moment in whatever way she could, the cafe door chimed, and a figure entered, their presence casting a small, unexpected shadow across the glow of the room. Both Emma and Alex glanced up, their brief sanctuary disturbed, and the stranger's appearance hinted at a story connected to Alex, a past he had carried quietly, and a reminder that life's moments of serendipity are always fragile. Emma felt her chest tighten, a mix of curiosity, fear, and the lingering thrill of connection, as if the night was teasing her with the promise of more conversation, more discovery, and perhaps more heartache. The rain had slowed, yet the tension inside the cafe had risen, an invisible thread pulling at Emma and Alex, suggesting that the story of this night was only just beginning. The glow of the lights, the faint hum of the city outside, the warmth between them, and the quiet yet undeniable pull of emotion created a moment suspended in time, delicate yet unforgettable. Emma realized that she would remember this night forever, the night she met Alex, the night the rain seemed to wash away her loneliness, and the night when the ordinary became extraordinary. She didn't yet know how the night would unfold, what choices would have to be made, or what secrets would come to light, but in that moment, all that mattered was the fragile magic between two people who had somehow found each other amid the rain, the city, and the quiet ache of longing they both carried. And as the stranger's shadow lingered near the door, Emma and Alex exchanged a look that said everything words could not, a silent acknowledgement that the night was far from over, that connection had been made, and that the first chapter of something unforgettable was quietly, irrevocably, unfolding. The evening had settled over Seattle with a quiet hush, leaving behind the remnants of the earlier rain, and Emma felt a strange mixture of excitement and unease as she stepped out of the cafe, her coat slightly damp, her heart still racing from the hours she had spent with Alex. The city around them glimmered under streetlights, puddles reflecting every neon sign, every movement. As if the world itself was holding its breath for what might happen next, and Alex walked beside her, shoulders relaxed yet charged with a subtle tension she could sense without needing words, a tension that spoke of a past shadow lingering just out of sight, something he hadn't fully revealed, something that made her curious, cautious, and undeniably drawn to him all at once. They moved through quiet streets, occasionally brushing against each other, a gentle contact that sent a thrill through Emma, one she tried to mask with nervous laughter, though her pulse betrayed her attempts to stay composed. The air smelled faintly of wet asphalt and distant coffee shops, a familiar mix that somehow felt like a secret language just between the two of them, a backdrop to the conversation that flowed naturally, sometimes playful, sometimes serious, yet always charged with a sense of urgency, as if every word could pull them closer or push them apart forever. Alex stopped near a small park, the kind with an old fountain and benches worn by time, and leaned against the railing, his eyes reflecting the city lights like tiny, restless stars, and Emma could feel the unspoken weight between them, the hesitation, the vulnerability, and the subtle longing that hung in the air, heavy and electric. "Emma," he said, his voice low and deliberate, catching her attention and making her chest tighten, "I don't usually share this part of myself with anyone, but with you, I feel like I can." She looked up at him, her own heart fluttering, as though every step she had taken that evening had led her to this precise moment, the quiet honesty in his tone pulling her in, dissolving the remnants of doubt she had carried through countless evenings alone, and she realized that her own fears, the careful walls she had built, were melting away with each word, each glance, each pause filled with meaning. The tension was palpable but gentle, like the first tremor of something powerful yet beautiful about to emerge, and Emma felt herself leaning slightly closer without even intending to, drawn by the gravity of his gaze, the quiet magnetism of his presence. He began to tell her about the parts of his life he rarely shared, memories tinged with both regret and longing, moments of heartbreak, dreams deferred, and fleeting happinesses that had shaped him in ways both profound and subtle, and Emma listened, feeling a deep empathy, a resonance that was hard to explain, as if their hearts had begun a silent conversation long before their words could catch up. Every confession, every laugh, every pause between them deepened the connection, weaving an invisible thread that was delicate yet unbreakable, a quiet intimacy forming in the soft glow of streetlights and the fading sounds of the city around them, where even the occasional car passing felt like part of a symphony composed just for this moment. Emma shared pieces of herself too, small truths she had never spoken aloud, fears she had buried under daily routines, hopes she had kept hidden, and with each revelation, Alex's expression softened, his eyes reflecting understanding, compassion, and something deeper she couldn't name but felt in every pulse of her heart, a recognition of shared solitude and longing. Time slipped away unnoticed, the night had grown late, yet neither wanted to end this fragile, unfolding connection, and the world around them seemed to disappear, leaving only the quiet intimacy, the faint shimmer of reflections on wet pavements, and the gentle rhythm of their breathing in harmony. At one point, a gust of wind carried the scent of jasmine from a nearby garden, and Emma laughed softly, brushing damp strands of hair from her face, feeling a warmth in her chest she hadn't felt in months, a mixture of exhilaration, hope, and the kind of nervous anticipation that made the night feel endless and sacred. Alex reached for his coat, then hesitated, glancing at her as if weighing whether to speak, and Emma instinctively took a small step closer, sensing that he was about to reveal something important, a secret, or perhaps a fear, something that could either deepen their connection or shake it, and the uncertainty made her pulse race. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper, confessing fears of past mistakes, heartbreaks that had left him wary, and a vulnerability he had never shared with anyone in years. Emma's heart ached with empathy, and yet, instead of feeling pity, she felt honored, trusted, and undeniably drawn toward him, as if his honesty had created a space for her own heart to speak freely without fear. They stood there, close but not touching, the city's lights reflecting in the puddles around them, and Emma felt time suspend, each second stretching longer, carrying both the weight of possibility and the thrill of connection. Every glance, every small gesture, like the way Alex's hand twitched near the railing or the way his gaze lingered on hers, seemed amplified, almost electric, and she felt a warmth she hadn't expected, a deep longing that was at once comforting and terrifying, knowing how much she wanted to stay in this moment forever, yet understanding that life rarely allowed such perfect pauses. As their conversation wove between laughter, silent reflections, and shared memories of their own lives, Emma realized she had never felt this alive, this seen, or this connected with anyone she had met so briefly, and it was overwhelming in the most exhilarating way. The night, though quiet, seemed to hum with energy, the streets empty enough to feel intimate, yet alive with the distant glow of city life, creating a cocoon of private magic around them. Just when Emma thought she could fully relax into the warmth of the evening and the charm of their connection, a flicker of tension crossed Alex's face, a shadow from the past, a phone call, a name that suddenly seemed to weigh heavy in the air, and she noticed it immediately, her heart skipping a beat with a mix of curiosity and anxiety. He hesitated, his fingers brushing the phone in his pocket, and Emma instinctively felt the fragile pull of reality returning, the reminder that life had complications, pasts, and choices that could intrude even on nights like these. She wanted to ask, to probe gently, but she also sensed the delicate balance, that this moment was theirs, yet could be disrupted with a single word or action. They walked again, the soft crunch of shoes on damp pavement punctuating the silence, each step carrying a mix of anticipation, hope, and the subtle ache of longing, the kind that makes a person acutely aware of another's presence and the fleeting nature of time. Alex finally shared more about the unresolved part of his life, speaking quietly but candidly, and Emma listened, feeling both the tension of uncertainty and the thrill of intimacy, understanding that trust was being extended, and it could not be taken lightly. And yet, despite the hint of complication, the air between them crackled with the undeniable attraction of two hearts recognizing each other, two souls daring to hope, to risk, and to connect amidst the quiet streets, shimmering reflections, and the soft, lingering scent of rain. Emma's own voice trembled slightly as she responded, not with questions or judgment, but with empathy, honesty, and an openness that mirrored his, creating a fragile harmony in which both could exist without pretense, a rare gift in a world that often demanded masks and defenses. By the time they reached a small bridge overlooking the softly flowing river, the city lights mirrored in the water, both Emma and Alex realized that the night had carried them far beyond ordinary expectations, that what had begun in a small cafe with a simple glance had grown into something both thrilling and profound, a connection that promised possibilities they had never imagined. Standing there, the faint hum of distant traffic, the gentle ripple of water below, and the soft glimmer of stars above forming a perfect backdrop, they allowed themselves a brief pause, each absorbing the moment, letting it sink in, knowing that the night was not over, that more stories, confessions, and emotions awaited, and that this was the kind of evening that could alter the course of lives. The bridge felt suspended in time, a place between past regrets and future possibilities, and Emma felt her chest tighten, a rush of emotions, anticipation, and the tender ache of something just beginning, while Alex's gaze lingered on her, soft, steady, and full of unspoken promises, the weight of his presence making her aware of her own heartbeat, the rapid pulse of connection, and the electric tension of vulnerability. And as they stood there, wrapped in the quiet intimacy of the night, a sudden sound, a distant shout, the echo of someone approaching, or the faint buzz of a phone, hinted that the world beyond their bubble of light and reflection was still real, still waiting, reminding them both that love, connection, and vulnerability exist in delicate balance with reality, that every moment of intimacy is precious precisely because it is fleeting, and that this night, the night of confessions, laughter, tension, and gentle attraction, would be remembered as the night their lives quietly shifted, a night full of possibility, emotion, and the promise of something unforgettable. Days passed after that rainy night in Seattle, yet Emma couldn't stop thinking about Alex. His presence lingered in her mind like a gentle echo, and every routine moment felt a little emptier without him, making her crave the warmth and intensity of the connection they had discovered. By some strange twist of fate, or perhaps the city itself conspiring, she ran into him several times, each encounter electric with unspoken recognition, glances that lasted just a heartbeat longer than necessary, and the subtle brush of hands that left warmth lingering on her skin. Their conversations grew bolder, more intimate, though still wrapped in gentle humor and light teasing. They met for coffee breaks, walked through quiet parks, lingered on benches under lamplight, and each time, the world seemed to shrink around them, leaving only the two of them in a bubble of laughter, stories, and lingering touches that were so small yet so profoundly felt. Emma noticed the way Alex's smile would soften when she laughed, how his eyes would follow her movements, attentive but unobtrusive, a quiet reverence in the way he observed her. She felt her own heart opening, walls softening in ways she hadn't thought possible after months of solitude, and she realized the night they had shared had begun something neither of them expected, a delicate thread of trust, attraction, and emotional intimacy weaving between them. Yet, the past was never far behind. A shadow loomed over Alex, a hint of unresolved history that surfaced in the smallest ways, a hesitation, a flicker of worry in his expression, or a phone call he seemed reluctant to answer immediately. One evening, as they shared a quiet dinner at a small diner tucked away on a side street, the phone on Alex's table buzzed insistently. A name flashed on the screen that instantly caused tension, subtle but unmistakable, and Emma sensed the weight of what it represented. He hesitated, fingers hovering over the device, and she felt her stomach tighten, a mixture of curiosity, fear, and the undeniable flutter of hope. She wanted to ask, to reach for reassurance, but instead, she trusted the quiet rhythm between them, understanding that he would reveal what needed to be shared when he was ready. Alex finally put the phone aside, his gaze meeting hers, steady yet layered with vulnerability, and he began to speak, his words deliberate, carrying the weight of honesty, past mistakes, and regrets he had never shared with anyone before. He told her of a heartbreak that had left him wary of connection, of choices he had made that haunted him, and of the loneliness he had carried even when surrounded by people. Emma listened, her own heart opening with empathy, feeling honored that he trusted her with these pieces of himself, understanding that vulnerability was rare, and that to share it was to invite someone in completely, risking both hope and heartbreak. The air between them was charged, electric with emotion, but gentle, as they navigated the delicate balance between disclosure and comfort, words and silences blending seamlessly into a conversation that felt timeless. Emma felt her pulse quicken not from fear but from the thrill of intimacy, the quiet acknowledgement that they were building something rare, a connection rooted in honesty, understanding, and the subtle, magnetic pull of attraction that neither could deny. Their hands brushed occasionally across the table, each contact lingering slightly longer than expected, a conversation in touch alone, and Emma found herself drawn to him, not just by curiosity or attraction, but by the depth of care and attentiveness he displayed, a care that was grounding yet exhilarating. They stepped outside after dinner, the cool night air wrapping around them, city lights reflecting on wet pavements, and the world seemed both familiar and transformed, ordinary streets taking on a magical quality because of the presence of each other. Alex stopped near a quiet bridge over a small river, and for a moment, they simply looked at the reflections in the water, the soft glimmering light, the subtle ripple of the current mirroring the turbulence and calm in their hearts. He turned to her, voice low, honest, and unguarded, expressing the fear and hope that coexisted in him, telling her that the night they had shared had changed something within him, that he had not expected to feel this way so soon, and yet here he was, unable to deny the connection that had formed between them. Emma felt tears prick her eyes, not of sadness, but of recognition, of longing met, of loneliness soothed, and of trust extended in the quiet intimacy of the night. She reached out, almost instinctively, letting her hand hover near his, and in that small gesture, a silent promise was made, an acknowledgement that both were willing to take a risk, to explore what had begun, despite uncertainty and the echoes of past pain. Their conversation shifted seamlessly from past regrets to dreams of the future, small hopes, and possibilities, each word revealing not only attraction but a deepening emotional resonance, a rhythm that neither could have anticipated but both were willing to embrace. They laughed softly over minor anecdotes, shared small confessions, and each silence between words was heavy with meaning, a delicate dance of understanding, patience, and budding desire, never rushed, always intentional, and emotionally real. Alex admitted fears of repeating old mistakes, of being vulnerable again, yet admitted that with Emma, he felt a rare freedom, a sense of being truly seen and understood. Emma, in turn, shared her own quiet disappointments and small triumphs, revealing a side she rarely exposed, the side shaped by both longing and resilience, and Alex listened, attentive and compassionate, creating a safe space where connection could flourish naturally. The city around them faded, the distant hum of traffic, the occasional flicker of neon signs, and the subtle sounds of night became a soft backdrop to their shared moment, a private world carved from ordinary streets and extraordinary emotions. The night pressed on, each second steeped in both anticipation and quiet serenity, and Emma felt herself teetering on the edge of something significant, a realization that the choice to trust and connect could change everything, yet the risk was worth it because of the profound sense of being alive and seen. Then, just as a delicate sense of peace settled over them, a subtle shift occurred, a presence, a sound, or a memory hinted by Alex's expression, that reminded them both that life was never simple, that past entanglements, responsibilities, and lingering uncertainties existed outside this cocoon of intimacy, and that the path ahead would not be without challenge. Emma felt a rush of adrenaline, a mixture of longing, curiosity, and cautious excitement, knowing that their story was still unfolding, that the night held more to reveal, and that choices were imminent, choices that could shape not only their connection but the trajectory of their hearts. They lingered on the bridge, voices softer now, the city lights dancing in Alex's eyes, reflections of hope and hesitation mirrored in Emma's, both aware of the fragile beauty of the moment, the delicate balance between fear and trust, and the quiet magic of a connection formed not through grand gestures but through the honesty, attentiveness, and emotional courage they had shown each other. A soft wind carried the scent of rain-soaked earth and distant flowers, brushing Emma's hair against her face, and in that instant, the ordinary became extraordinary, a simple night walk, two people willing to be vulnerable, and the shimmer of city lights transformed the evening into something unforgettable. And as they finally prepared to leave the bridge, turning toward the quiet streets that would take them home, a sudden sound, a distant voice, a phone, or a shadow crossing a lamplight, reminded them that life would intrude again, that love and connection require courage, and that the next chapter of their story was waiting just beyond the next step, leaving both Emma and Alex suspended in a thrilling, delicate anticipation, hearts racing, minds alert, yet fully present to the night they had begun to share, a night that promised change, discovery, and the kind of intimacy that lingers long after words fade. The night stretched on, calm yet alive with possibility, and Emma and Alex walked together through the quiet streets of Seattle, the city lights reflecting in puddles and glimmering like tiny stars caught on wet pavement, each step carrying the weight of the connection that had grown between them over the past days, a connection built on honesty, vulnerability, and the subtle, thrilling spark of attraction that neither could deny. Every glance, every slight touch, every shared laugh felt amplified in the silence of the night, and Emma felt her heart beating faster with each passing moment, aware that something rare and beautiful was unfolding, something she had not expected when she had stepped into that small cafe days ago. The air carried a faint chill, yet she felt warm inside, a warmth that came from feeling seen and understood, from standing beside someone whose presence had begun to feel essential, as if their lives had brushed against each other at precisely the right moment. They talked about dreams, hopes, and small fears, laughter mingling with quiet reflection, and each word, each pause, seemed to weave a delicate thread between their hearts, a thread both fragile and unbreakable, a tether of trust and shared understanding that neither had experienced before. Emma noticed the way Alex's eyes softened when he looked at her, the subtle way his hands moved when he gestured, the gentle weight of his voice carrying sincerity and emotion that left her both exhilarated and calm at the same time, a rare combination she hadn't realized she could feel. As they approached a small bridge overlooking the river, the lights shimmering on the water like scattered diamonds, the night seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for them to step fully into the moment, to acknowledge the intensity of what had begun. Alex stopped, turning to face Emma, and for a long moment, neither spoke, their gazes locked, words unnecessary, silence heavy with emotion, and yet gentle, comforting, and full of promise. He finally spoke, his voice low, honest, and carrying a tremor that betrayed the depth of his feelings, telling her that he did not know what tomorrow would bring, that life was unpredictable and full of challenges, yet he could not ignore the connection he felt with her, a connection that had grown too strong, too real, to dismiss or deny. Emma's chest tightened, a rush of emotion coursing through her, tears threatening to fall not from sadness but from the intensity of being seen and understood, from the realization that this night, this simple night of walking and talking, laughter and quiet confessions, had changed everything, creating a space in her heart for hope, trust, and the possibility of something extraordinary. They talked long into the night, voices carrying softly across the empty streets, sharing small stories, silly observations, and dreams that had been tucked away in quiet corners of their hearts, and with every word, every glance, every careful, gentle touch, the bond between them deepened, creating an intimacy that was profound yet unforced, delicate yet strong, electric yet soothing. At one point, a breeze swept through the street, carrying the scent of rain-soaked flowers and distant coffee shops, brushing Emma's hair against her face, and she laughed softly, a sound that made Alex smile in return, their eyes meeting in a quiet exchange that spoke of mutual understanding, attraction, and the tentative hope of more. They paused at a quiet park bench, sitting side by side, the river visible through the trees, lights twinkling across the water, and in that stillness, they allowed themselves to feel the depth of what had been building between them, the trust, the longing, the gentle thrill of discovering someone who seemed to understand the unspoken parts of their soul. Alex admitted fears, quiet but real, of past mistakes repeating, of love lost or taken for granted, and yet, with Emma, he felt a rare freedom, a sense of safety and acceptance, a knowledge that he could be vulnerable without fear of judgment. Emma, in turn, shared her own quiet apprehensions, small regrets, and unspoken wishes, her voice trembling slightly not from fear but from the courage it took to allow someone in, and Alex listened, fully present, attentive, and compassionate, creating a space where emotion could flow freely, without pretense or rush, a rare gift in a world often too busy to notice such subtleties. The night deepened, yet neither wanted to end this shared moment, feeling as though time itself had paused to allow them the luxury of connection, the rare opportunity to explore the fragile beginnings of something that could become profound and life-changing. Their hands brushed occasionally, fingers intertwining briefly before separating, small gestures loaded with meaning, silent communication that spoke louder than words, and Emma felt her pulse quicken with both excitement and the tender ache of longing, knowing that this night would remain etched in her memory forever. They walked again, side by side, past empty streets, quiet cafes, and the shimmering reflections of streetlights on wet asphalt, each step carrying them further into the night and deeper into the awareness of one another, until they reached the riverbank, a place where the city lights reflected like scattered jewels across the water, the scene almost surreal, magical in its stillness, and perfectly suited to the emotions that filled them both. Alex turned toward Emma again, voice soft, steady, and full of emotion, telling her that he did not know how to predict the future, yet he wanted to be honest, to be present, to allow the connection they had built to exist without fear, without hesitation, and Emma felt her chest tighten, a rush of hope, gratitude, and anticipation coursing through her, knowing that vulnerability had been met with care, and that the night had created something both fragile and enduring. They spoke of small dreams, moments that had shaped their lives, hopes for the future, and fears they had rarely voiced, weaving their words together into a tapestry of understanding, intimacy, and quiet romance, and each exchange left them more connected, more attuned to one another, and more aware of the rare gift that had appeared unexpectedly in their lives. The gentle sound of the river, the soft glow of distant lights, the faint hum of the city, and the quiet brush of wind across the water created a perfect backdrop for their shared moment, a night suspended between reality and something almost dreamlike, a night that felt as though it had been orchestrated for them alone. Emma noticed the subtle expressions on Alex's face, the way his eyes reflected light and emotion, the slight curve of his lips in reaction to her laughter, and the careful way he positioned himself near her without pressure, all of it communicating respect, attraction, and care, and she felt an overwhelming sense of being truly seen, understood, and valued. As the night edged toward its final hours, they lingered near the river, allowing the quiet intimacy of the moment to settle over them, feeling the unspoken promise that this connection, though newly formed, held weight, meaning, and potential, a potential that could shape the course of their lives in ways neither had anticipated. Emma realized that the night was not about grand gestures, declarations, or dramatic confessions, but about presence, honesty, and the tender, slow building of trust and emotion, a realization that made every heartbeat, every glance, and every word feel precious, sacred even. When it was finally time to part, they walked back through the dim streets, side by side, reluctant but understanding that the night had given them something unforgettable, a shared memory that would linger in both their hearts, a night full of laughter, gentle confessions, subtle touches, and quiet romance that neither would ever forget. As they finally reached their separate paths, they paused, exchanging a look heavy with emotion, unspoken words, and the mutual understanding that this night, ordinary to anyone else who might have walked those streets, had been extraordinary for them, a night that had begun with rain, a small cafe, and a chance meeting, and had blossomed into a profound connection, full of hope, vulnerability, and the promise of more. Emma turned, feeling the warmth of the memory and the thrill of possibility, and walked toward home, knowing that the night had changed something inside her, that she had been seen, understood, and quietly loved, and that the memory of Alex, the bridge, the river, and their shared confessions would remain a gentle, glowing thread through her life, a reminder that sometimes, one night can alter the course of hearts forever, leaving a quiet, lasting imprint, and that this was the night she would never forget.